Aside from having one of the best plots and action in all of anime history, AOT has a lot of dark themes discussed in it, which we'll talk about today. What is Attack on Titan's main theme? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. First up, we have the behavior of humans under absolute fear. If we go back to the very first episode of the first season, we witness the colossal Titan destroying the wall, which allowed the Titan invasion to happen. Although before this event took place, things were relatively simple. The whole human civilization seemed to be living peacefully behind the walls, without ever having faced any real form of fear in their entire lives. After the Titans broke through, we get to witness various characters respond in different ways. However, they all had one thing in common. They were overcome by the adrenaline spike they got for the very first time. Usually, in other animes, we do get to witness some characters afraid for their lives, whereas others show courage. However, this isn't the case with AOT. This anime openly exposes how most humans would be shocked under the horror of absolute fear. Armin has a hard time moving his arm properly, and Eren can't think of anything as he is just acting on impulse to save his mom. Evan Hands, a trained soldier, can't face a Titan head-on as he's confronted with the thought of a brutal death for the very first time. The best quote to describe this stagnant state of humans is the opening narration itself. And just like that, everything changed. At that terrible moment, in our hearts, we knew. Home was a pen. Humanity, cattle. The next thing we have is how the cycle of conflict is rooted in human nature. Now, this is a theme best discussed by the ending of the manga, which we all love. But before we get to the theme itself, let's take a look at why this philosophy holds so much truth to it. If we take a look into the history of humanity since the dawn of time, it's no surprise that war just seems like an essential part of it. Regardless of who's right or wrong, conflict just seems to find its way into the history books, no matter how hard humans try to learn from their past mistakes. And this is what the ending of AOT tries to discuss through the ending and the extra chapters. In the extra chapters, we witness how humanity indulges itself in conflict once again, despite the past history of struggle. This almost makes the whole point of all the struggles in AOT worthless. Yet at the same time, we could say the same for human history to some degree. Despite having a history of war, there are still regions in the real world where war rages on for different reasons. Conflict roots deep into human nature, and sadly, no one's been able to do much about it. I don't endorse everything about the ending, but if there is one thing I like about it, it's how the ending depicts this theme. The third theme on the list is how morality doesn't exist. This has got to be one of the best themes discussed in AOT. If you think about it, what does it mean to be moral? I'm guessing if you had to answer this question, it would be something along the lines of choosing what is right over what is wrong. However, this definition is flawed, as people simply have different definitions of what's right and wrong. Why does this happen exactly? It's because a person's moral principle is based on his emotion, which he thinks of as rationality. Let me get into what I really mean by this. The best character AOT discusses this with is Erwin Smith. Off the bat, the impression that Erwin gives off is of a man with strict principles. He seems like a person who'd be willing to obtain what he considers justice, no matter the cost. Time after time, he vows to be serving humanity through his actions. However, this is far from the truth. Just before he dies, in his final march towards the Beast Titan, he confesses to Levi his real motive for joining the Survey Corps. It turns out, his real aim was to discover the truth about Titans so he could prove how his father was correct about them. He couldn't care less for humanity. The persona of a strict commander leading humanity to victory was just a way to achieve his real goals. This is a perfect example of how humans would align their sense of justice and morality to suit their goals. And if this is how morality is made, I guess it doesn't really exist. Speaking of morality, would it be moral if you enjoyed the video up until now and didn't like and subscribe? I'll let you decide the answer to that. The last major theme on this list is the link between birth and suffering. For those of you who don't know, antinatalism is the idea that you're committing a sin if you choose to breed and have babies. It's not just because of the overpopulation issue. It's also because if you bring a baby into the world, it's highly likely that the baby will have to grow up and suffer throughout his or her life. Think about it. Do you really know of anyone rich or poor who's completely content with his or her life? Everyone has some sort of problem, and antinatalists believe that the best way to avoid suffering is to not have babies. Zeke's entire ideology is based on antinatalism. He believes that the Eldians live in constant suffering and cause other people to drench in fear as they are subjects of Ymir who can harness the power of Titans. According to him, Eldians should simply cease to breed to prevent further suffering. With that being said, if you want to watch more AOT content like this, click on this video to keep watching. That's the end of the video. Peace.